Hello, this is Mesh, and welcome to another review video. This one is going to be a review of the episode from 2 days ago of The Exorcist, Season 1, Episode 1, and that title of the episode was called And Let My Cry Come Unto Thee. So this is a brand new season, brand new series. It's a modern reinvention of the book done by William Peter Blatty. And I guess it's almost, for me, it looks like it's kind of a remake of the movie from '73. But, I'll get into that a bit more shortly. So what I thought I'd do is I'll just briefly touch on the characters within this series that we know so far, and I guess give you a bit of information about them, and then I guess just go to a few interesting points that I found. But before I get started, major spoilers in this, so if you haven't watched it, I recommend you do. If you like the original Exorcist movie, the old 1973 one, or if you just like Exorcist movies or religious type of movies orientated like this, you might want to watch this one. So yeah, pause this, go watch it if you can, then come back. Or if you don't care about spoilers, obviously stick around. I just wanted to mention as well, I guess this is a heavy religious TV show. On both sides of it. I mean, you could look at it as anti-religion in a way, but there's positives in there as well. But just so you know, I guess I'm biased. I'm not a religious person, but I am not ignorant to religion either. I'm very interested in religion and history, so I've always, read up about it and been interested in it and learnt about it. But just so you know, that's where I kind of stand on this stuff. Okay, so anyway, let's talk about the characters, the main characters in it. So let's start with probably the main star, which is Father Thomas, or Thomas. So interesting about him, he seems to have a backstory there, which we've got, I guess, a couple of teasers about, of a relationship there. He's getting a letter from a married woman, and his sister's kind of warning him against that. I guess, it looks like also his faith has always been in question. But that is changing as this first episode happened, so that's quite interesting. A bit more information about him as well. He grew up in Mexico while his sister stayed in the United States. So that's probably the main person at the moment. But we have the main family, so that's the father, which is Henry, and the mother, which is Angela, and the two sisters, so Casey and Kat. So Henry, I believe he has Alzheimer's. If you want to correct me on that, by all means, but that would be a big assumption. There's no confirmation on that, but he's obviously got serious mental health issues, and that would be my first assumption on that. I'd be interested to see if there's any more, or possibly he's also has a possession issue, but at the moment, for me, I think it's Alzheimer's. So Angela, she's, I guess, looks like a business lady, very hardworking, but she's, I guess, grown suspicious of her daughter who's just come back from university. So let's talk about the sisters. So we have Casey, which so once again spoilers, but initially we think is fine, but it turns out that she is possessed. And then we have Kat, who is back from university, I believe, and her friend died in a car crash, so that's why she's returned. So a couple of other characters as well. We have Father Marcus, who we see some flashbacks, and I think he's going to be more important in the next episode, but I guess a very important character, but you didn't see a lot of him. You just saw his backstory and I guess his exorcism he has done previously. Okay, so the main scenes with those characters, the things that I picked up, the interesting things. So the first one is the whole exorcism that Father Marcus is performing on a child called Gabriel in Mexico. Pretty brutal, but it's good to see that they're not shying away from that stuff. It is brutal and scary, and it's good because that's the whole point of these movies and the whole premise. So it was good to see that they're not shy about anything within this topic, and good acting from the Gabriel and obviously Father Marcus. Those two characters were pretty awesome. But yeah, as we see, he's performing exorcism. Another father comes along, Father Bennett, I think it was, and he sees what's happening, and he says, this needs to stop. But Father Marcus wants to keep going, And eventually the exorcism fails and the child breaks free and snaps his own neck. I think he might have even broken his ribs as well. Initially, before that, you kind of see him hunch over and hear all this cracking sounds. So that was pretty brutal, a real brutal scene. But yeah, so that was, I guess, Father Marcus. Then you see that he has moved into I guess it looks like a retreat, and that's where we see him as well. So let's talk about, I guess, the main family. So we see that Angela is hearing voices, and she thinks that it's all related to Kat, because Kat lost a friend. She's late teens, I'd say, and she is behaving like an early teenager. So she's hanging around in her bedroom, lights off, not talking to anyone, and Angela thinks that the demon is within her. But I guess we find more information on it as we go on. But yeah, Angela, she's picking up on things. Her daughter's not right. She's hearing voices. It's pretty interesting what's going on. And she approaches Father Thomas to talk to him and let him know. So that was an interesting conversation between them, of her saying, I'm not crazy, and him just not believing her at all. But in the end, I think he kind of turns and says, well, it doesn't matter. If I believe you or not, he'll just turn up. And then we have the whole crow flying through the window, which was interesting, which was a little crazy. Obviously, a bit of a jump scare there, which was good. So then on to the next scene, which is where Father Thomas goes to, I guess, the family's house. So that's Angela and Henry's house there. And we see them, we see the father talking to the family, talking to Kat. And while she says a few things about, she's not right at the moment, but I kind of got the feeling that, if anything, her honesty there was true, in saying that she's saying negative things, but it was quite honest. But I'm not sure if we have a problem with her at the moment or not. But then we see like a dinner scene, which was very cool. I like that, where Kat lets rip towards her father because of his mental issues at the moment. She's saying, I don't have a father, and she was really pretty pejorative towards him, and you could see he was upset, but he's obviously struggling with the whole thing anyway. And then what Father Thomas says to her was so well delivered. It was actually, it made me laugh because it was so awesome. I'm not sure if that was their goal, to make you laugh at that scene, but I did. And then on to the next thing, where I guess they're wrapping up that situation. Father Thomas is heading home, and he says goodbye to Henry. So that's the father who has that Alzheimer's, and all of a sudden he says something really random. So the Henry says, on 41 Street at the retreat, you'll find Father Marcus. It was just weird. I mean, we're seeing that with the flashbacks around Father Marcus and the exorcism, that Father Thomas is actually involved with those, which is strange. It's his dreams, but it's flashbacks to Father Marcus. So that's interesting that that Father Thomas is getting these dreams, and also that Henry got possessed for a moment there and delivered that information to him. So then on to the next scene, we see Father Thomas go to that retreat and had a really strange conversation with another priest there. And it's quite hard to pick up on it, but you might need to watch it again. I didn't see it the first time, but I rewatched it and I saw it, that when he walks away from having that conversation, which was awkward, an awkward conversation anyway, the priest takes off his glasses and you see he has that demon eye come up. So that demon eye was very prevalent in the exorcism that Father Marcus did with that child. You saw it, I guess, the second pupil roll over, and that happened to that priest as well. So that was a weird scene in the end. Then we see that Father Marcus and Father Thomas meet, and there's a confrontation there of, how do you know this information? And he tells them, I've been having these dreams, you're in them, and he gives them detail about the exorcism, which he can't deny. And in the end, Father Marcus seems to just brush him off and say, I don't want to deal with it, good luck, you're in for a whole world of hurt. But also he did mention as well that, it wouldn't be God that would be driving him to this location. God doesn't speak like that. So that was an interesting, spinning the situation on its head. I initially thought that his dreams and the communication with Henry, and it would all be driven by a good entity. But I mean, Father Marcus has a point. So whomever is driving Father Thomas is probably the evil entity that's possessing that family as well, or the certain members of that family. So then on to the next scene, where Father Thomas goes and sees Angela and says that initially in his career he's never spoken to God, but now he has, and he says he needs to help this family, which was a I guess touching scene, and very well delivered, very very well acted from both parts there. But things quickly abruptly ended by this noise upstairs. Now this is where things got pretty intense, and it was a fantastic scene, pretty creepy. So Father Thomas and Angela go upstairs to see what the noise was. Then down slams that ladder, and into the attic Father Thomas goes. And that scene was pretty crazy. So we had him seeing someone at the end of the room, and then he falls over. Of course you fall over, right? That was just very cliche, but it was still building the anticipation. And then it was gone. Then we had the rat, right? So the rat was clearly picked up by some external force and crushed. So you didn't see a hand, but then you did see a hand, and it was Casey's hand. So, but the thing is, it wasn't Casey's hand. You can see that, right? From the image in the background, that is not her hand. That is, a really decrepit old hand. And then the whole scene where her walking towards him, that was creepy. That was, it must have been done with wires lifting her up. But it really suits a possession. I've never seen it done like that before. I've missed out on the last few movies around that kind of exorcism. I saw some a few years ago, but I've never seen a possession walk like that before, and it really suits it. It's really crazy how it's almost like she's asleep, and the entity or the demon, whatever's inside of her, is really struggling to control her. And it's like it's not got full control. She's still partially asleep. And it was just really creepy. It was awesome. And then, obviously, the scene ends. He gives her the big boot across the room, which is hard to see. Didn't think that was very well emphasized. I had to really pause it and see what pushed her off, and it was his boot. But yeah, then, obviously, the light comes on, and everything goes back to normal. But the interesting line from that was her line. So Casey's line, when she kind of comes out looking normal, she says, "Where there is one, there's probably a whole bunch," referring to the rats. And that is obviously a parallel with the situation going on here. So I'm thinking that we've got multiple people possessed, because it looks like, well, that priest at the retreat, he might have something. There might be something with that. We have Casey, maybe Kat possessed, maybe even Henry as well, because he had that moment there where he was driven by something to tell him the address. So we've got multiple things going on here, and maybe it doesn't even stop there, because there's a few other things around that kind of lead me to think there's other stuff going on. Every scene, the director and the writer have obviously put that there for a reason. There's nothing coincidental. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. It was good. It was really true to the original 1972 movie, which I liked, and there's quite a few Easter eggs as well. I'll talk about those in a second, but just before, I just want to mention I was really happy to see the use of technology. So when Father Thomas needed to research, he just used Google. Fantastic. And in the attic, he did bumble around in the dark, but it wasn't as bad because he used his phone light. It was awesome. So whilst it seems to be true to the original movies and concept around exorcism, it's good to see them using technology to stop these kind of ponderous plot holes that we see, often, where someone would go to a library to research, whereas now there's no point, right? And also the whole, walking around in the dark when everyone's got a phone, so just turn your phone light on. Problem solved. But anyway, let's talk about the Easter eggs, because I found there's quite a few. So the starting one would be that I found was the dog scene at the very start. So there's dogs howling at the priest, which is very similar to the 73 movie where there was a scene where the original priest is in Egypt and he sees the dogs going crazy, and that kind of really made me think of that scene, even though the other scene was in Mexico, the old one was in Egypt. But anyway, I've got the kind of same vibe from that one. Another one was the whole the starting scene from the new series. I had kids jumping on a car, and if you watch the old movie, it's the same. There's kids jumping on a car. I mean, that's, for me, it's not a massive one, but it's still something there. And another one, small one, which I picked up on, which, this might just be me picking up on nothing here, but I've found that I found it a homage to the old one, was, I guess, the Father Thomas's apartment, how it's so small and next to a train, and it really reminds me of a few scenes with Father Karras, I think it was, from the original movie, where I guess he visits his mother in a very similar, I guess, location with trains and small apartments. It just, once again, it was just a small thing that I noted. But one massive Easter egg, which was really good to see, was when Father Thomas was on Google trying to find information, and he finds an article on the movie. Well, it isn't the movie, but it's the story from the movie where two fathers died trying to perform an exorcism. And it was cool to have the shot of the stairs as well, where the main father died, where he jumped out of the window down the stairs, because the stairs were a very important point around that whole thing. But yeah, cool Easter eggs. I really enjoyed the show. So yeah, overall, very good acting. I thought the actors and actresses were really good. There's nothing, I guess I didn't see anyone that was negative, I thought, in their acting performance. I liked the character development, and it's really building for something. With a show like this, it can't just go gung-ho into it, because I don't know how they're going to put this out for a whole season. I don't know if they'd ever go to season 2. They're going to have to introduce a whole nother a possession, I think, to go to season 2. But at the moment, I really enjoyed this one. It was a couple of jump scares in there, but not too many. There's a lot of creepy scenes going forward, and there was the main attic scene, which was fantastic. Very well done, and that was very scary. And it put me on edge, which was good. And the whole development around the characters was really good. I really like some of the characters already. Like Father Thomas, I think he's a great character already. I really like him. And even Angela, I'm unsure about her, because I think there might be some weird undertones with that character. But at the moment, I do like that character. But yeah, overall, it was a good show. I recommend you watch it if you're interested in the older movies, or interested in the exorcism movies, things like that, or if you just want a scary TV show to watch. But yeah, thumbs up from me at the moment, and I'll leave this video here. If you saw any Easter eggs or something that I missed, put it down below in the comments. Interested to hear some stuff, because obviously there's some stuff I may have overlooked. But leave me some feedback on if you enjoyed the show, if you're going to keep watching it. And yeah, thumbs up if you liked the video, thumbs down if you didn't, and subscribe for more content from me around the Exorcist show, and also the Strange show, and Stranger Things in the future, and some others coming up as well. And until next time, cheerio.